Hunt Showdown is far from your average battle royale, although technically speaking it's kind of hard to classify it in one genre. It's been out for a few years, but still regularly gets new waves of players coming in. I happen to be one of those people, somehow ignoring it for years until finally jumping in somewhat recently. If you haven't played it, the game revolves around you and up to 2 friends exploring a huge map, looking for clues, fighting things, and trying to track down a boss monster to claim its bounty. Meanwhile, every other team is trying to do the same thing. Just about everything and everyone is out to kill you, and when a fight starts, it can be over in an instant. This mix of PvP and PvE sets it apart from other games in the genre, like Apex, Fortnite, or PUBG. But it's not just one concept that's helping it carve out its own niche. I could go on about all the unique choices the developers took with the direction of the game, from the lightning fast time to kill, to the decaying Americana themes, and even the slow, methodical gameplay. But there's one feature that I think sets it far beyond the average competitive shooter: audio. Now you're probably thinking, I bet the game has really nice gun sounds that make it feel satisfying. And while that is true, I'm not even going to mention the audio quality, as many games could be praised for that. No, instead I'm talking about the underlying systems that make audio a key feature of the game, far beyond things like, I hear gunshots to the right so there must be people there. Hunt Showdown uses HRTF, which is short for Head-Related Transfer Function, otherwise known as binaural audio, to create a dense, realistic soundscape far beyond standard game audio. But I'll get into that later. The result of it is that the sound design is so tightly coupled to the gameplay that you're at an extreme advantage if you pay close attention to it. I wouldn't say the game was unplayable if you were deaf or played without audio, but it would be many times harder to come out on top. Think of it like playing the game in a window that was a quarter of the original size. Sure, you could get through it, but you're missing out on tons of valuable information. But enough about how important it is. What about some real examples? Well, I tried coming up with a list of all the important uses for sound in the game, but it was far too long to fit into a video. So here's a few that stood out to me. Bullets and explosives can be heard from incredible distances, and the audio spatialization makes it easy to pinpoint exactly what direction they're coming from. Passing by a dying horse makes it sit up and whinny loudly. Walking through hanging cans or chains causes them to jingle out for others to hear. Running on a metal surface causes your footsteps to echo out. On the flip side, dirt and grass is quieter, giving you more wiggle room for sneaking. There are even countless objects on the ground, like broken glass you can loudly crunch across, or twigs and branches that audibly snap under your feet. Perched crows squawk out and fly off when you pass by, and caged dogs begin barking madly as you approach. There are even ways to subvert these systems, such as an alarm device that can be planted for other players to trip, or another tool that simulates the noise of a gunfight, drawing other players in or causing them to back off. Many of these systems can be bypassed by crouching and moving very slowly, or amplified many times over by running at top speed. Players are greatly rewarded not only for stealth, but using audio to identify the location of others. With the quick, brutal combat, the victor is most often the one who shot first. Getting the jump on someone is the key to winning most fights, and staying concealed is your ticket to survival. All sounds in the game originate from a real source in the world, so almost everything you hear plays a role in one way or another. There's tons of other instances of useful audio in the game, but I think you get the point. So, back to what I was saying before about HRTF and binaural audio. Hunt uses a system called Cry Spatial, obviously made for CryEngine, to create the dynamic audio you hear in the game. The system does numerous things to mimic human ears, such as modify and distort sounds over distances, or create reverberation echoes in ideal conditions. It even recreates the subtle delay between the distance of our ears, which humans heavily rely on to pinpoint sound direction. Say a bullet is fired 50 meters to your right. In a standard game engine, the audio would be panned mostly to your right ear, and the volume would be reduced for distance. There may even be a little bit of pitch shifting going on to make distant things sound better. You know the sound came somewhere roughly to the right and not very close to you, but you have no idea where and how far the shooter was. Meanwhile, Hunt is running that same soundbite through a fully fledged spatialization system, tricking your brain into visualizing the noise 80 to 90 degrees right of where you're looking and roughly 40 to 60 meters away. Audio spatialization involves some very complex math and a good bit of processing power to implement, and many gamers may not even notice it in a game that doesn't rely so heavily on audio. so it's no wonder it isn't widely used in the industry. Valorant is another notable title that has recently implemented HRTF, so it is slowly picking up some steam. Although, with VR titles becoming more popular, the demand for realistic binaural audio is also going up, to help achieve better immersion. As these systems become more standardized, easier to use, and quicker to process, we'll see a lot more games including spatialized audio by default. But even beyond that, games that heavily involve sound in the player's decision making are few and far between. Sure, it's cool to pinpoint where an enemy is by sound alone, but are you as acutely aware of every single sound you make and how it will be perceived in other games? Some people may find it to be a burden, but judging by Hunt's popularity almost 4 years out from release, the unique sound design plays a huge part in making the game as great as it is. If you're interested in some more in-depth discussion on this, the devs did a live stream a while back where they talked about the game's audio, even showing some behind-the-scenes tools they used to make it all happen. I'll leave a link to that in the description if you want to check it out. Or if you just want to hear me ramble on about cool, often overlooked things in games, I've got a catalog of long-form videos doing just that. As always, feel free to subscribe if you want to help support the channel. Either way, I hope to see you all in the next one.